Today's episode is proudly sponsored and brought to you by our good friends over at PetMatRx Premium Canine Supplements. Straight Up Dog Talk is so excited to be partnered with PetMatRx and jump into their family. After exhausting several other pet supplement brands, I am getting the support and results I have been searching for both Toby and Fitz. PetMatRx supports all three pillars of canine wellness using their Cell Matrix delivery. It delivers nutrition directly into the cell. If you're looking for a supplement that pairs with nature and science, look no further and get your dog on PetMatRx today. This stuff works. Period. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, the podcast where pet parents, pet guardians, and pet professionals come together to dive into real issues in dog parenting. From controversial training methods to sensitive health topics, we're getting raw and real about what it means to care for our canine companions. Join us every Wednesday for unfiltered conversations, expert insights, and personal stories that will make you laugh, cry, and grow as a pet parent. No topic is off limits and no question goes unanswered. You won't get one perspective here. You'll get them all because every dog is different and every human is too. You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and we are back again this week with another amazing guest. This week we have Kate and Rick Ross, the boss dog. And although you guys cannot see him, Rick is here for the interview, and he has already given me his famous side eye and looked absolutely adorable on camera. But since he can't talk, we will let Kate, his counterpart, do the talking for him. How are you doing today, Kate?
I'm great. Thank you for having us.
Of course. I love your guys' account. You guys are so funny, and you guys have so much positivity and generosity and just good spirit around dogs and the community that is rescue. And Rick just has such a cool story that I thought you could share his story and talk a little bit what life is with Rick and how that kind of catapulted you into the rest.
I'd love to. It's funny. It all started with an Instagram post from my local shelter, actually. It was a few years ago in the Texas heat. We are a no-kill city here in Austin. The post was saying how many dogs they had, but the porta-coolers, which are the air conditioning units for the outside dogs, had broken. And when the Texas heat, it was a plea for fosters, adopters, anybody. I have 3 small kids. I have 2 existing dogs. I work full time. So it's a really busy household, but I had to do something. That post just stuck with me. So I started showing up once a week. I started walking what we call green dot dogs, and anybody over the age of 18 can walk a green dot dog. So I didn't have a certification or anything at that point. I would walk green dot dogs once a week on my lunch break. That was the start of my contribution. We had an area called the multi-purpose room, and it was just lined with dogs. Rick was one of the dogs in the multi-purpose room, and he was a green dot dog. So I was able to walk him, and I remember a volunteer telling me, "This dog is so good. He is such a love. He's so easy to walk," and there's just been no interest in him. His name was Graham Mercy at the shelter. My encounter with Rick, my start of walking dogs on my lunch break, really spearheaded the whole charge of me wanting to become an actual volunteer, but then also learning more about Black dogs and the shelter system and Black dog syndrome. Honestly, that was the start. I walked him on my lunch break one day and I fell in love. And although we were not going to foster or adopt, he came home with us.
Well, I think it's just so cool. It started because of a need, and you were like, how can I figure out a way where I can fill this need a little bit? I lived in Texas for almost 10 years. I know it gets hot there. I didn't live in the Austin area. I lived in the Dallas area, but it gets hot there. And I experienced probably some of the worst things in Texas. When I lived in Texas, that's when I was a vet tech, and I worked in a couple areas right outside of Dallas, but the worst was Cedar Hill. It's right in between the poor area of Dallas and then more outskirt areas of the city. And people brought dogs with prong collars embedded in their necks because they had been left in their yard by the owner, chained to a tree, and somebody finally got fed up because they hadn't had water for 2 days. I saw some really awful things.
things, hoarding cases, shelter overpopulation, puppy mill situations. You just really, really see it all there. Now, Iowa is not much better because we have the same problem here. We have lots of farms and we have an Amish community and they just kind of breed dogs willy-nilly. But then we have all these farm areas where people just dump dogs. I have a friend who quite regularly picks up litters of puppies from the farm field behind her house to take them to the shelter because there's just puppies roaming everywhere. Now, as far as I know, Iowa is not really as entrenched in the overpopulation problem that is currently happening, but I do know a couple of rescues here have been helping import dogs from other states because we do have space and we have available fosters, but it is just such a difficult situation. So I love that you went to do something about it, even though it was only one day a week on your lunch break. And you can only start with the green dot dogs. I remember that, green dot, yellow dot, red dot. I don't know if you guys have orange dogs too. We had orange dogs as well. You might want to be careful, but you don't need the Kevlar for this one.
We have quite a few different colors. We have a purple for shy dogs who I adore. Shy dogs, I really like going slow and sitting with them. I really enjoy that. So we do have some different color situations with some yellows and oranges and different things. But no, you're right. I work in the healthcare field. So during COVID was really a struggle for me. And I almost felt a little disconnected from my community in a sense. I'm a big believer and I live here, I give here. And how can you make a difference? And it seems locally is the way that you really can make a difference. So that was one reason. Also, I kind of made a promise to myself, I'm going to keep showing up. And after I did Green Dots for a long time, I officially signed up to be a real volunteer and I did all of that training. And then after that, I decided to be an ICU volunteer and I did that training. It's really cool because I do think that every dog has a story and sometimes the story is not told or sometimes you only see an intake photo of a dog. But I think telling a dog story is really, really important. And I asked a shelter if they would be interested in doing a collab reel with me every Friday of the dog I walked that week. And again, it's not always my lunch break. I miss dinner sometimes. I miss bedtime. I have small children. I have to make sacrifices. But the shelter started doing a collab reel with me every Friday. And we just highlight the dog I walked. And I would love to save them all. And I wish I could, but we can't. I'm hopeful that I will make a small difference locally. And that's what my goal is. It's been really fun because I've been able to also include my kids. So I present at their school why I'm a volunteer and classes will draw photos of dogs and write persuasive letters on why you should adopt the dogs. It's really incredible because it forms this sense of community where these kids learn about these shelter dogs. I'm able to hang up the photos on their kennels. It also helps to increase their kennel presence. It's really cool. Now I'm the dog mom at the school and everyone knows that Miss Kate loves dogs. But it's neat because I can also follow up with kids. They ask me, hey, how's my dog? And it's really nice because kids get really into it. But also when I'm not home, I think it's really important for my kids to know what I'm doing and where I am and why volunteering is so important and why taking care of animals is so important and how children treat animals is so important. So all of it has honestly been one of the most rewarding things that I've done. And then adopt this silly guy with such a personality.
Okay, first, yes to all of that. But also add on there, you're teaching your children and other people's children that it's okay to be passionate about something and it's okay to do something about what you're passionate about. And I don't think that that's a lesson that gets translated well or often enough with kids because the whole let kids be kids, gentle parenting, all of the arguments that people have about how we raise kids nowadays. But I don't think that we teach kids to be passionate about things, to be happy about the things they love, to share the things that they love and to get involved. And so I think what you're doing is really important. So glad that you mentioned the drawings on the kennel? Because I've been saving this question for you for months and months and months and months about these drawings. Do the people who adopt the dogs get to keep the drawings?
They do.
Yes, I love that so
They
much.
do. Yeah. So what's really special is when you walk into the shelter right now, there are some of the drawings on the wall, and it's because those dogs are in foster. So they haven't been adopted yet, but they are in foster. And so it's nice because we've held on to those. And so they're on display as soon as you walk in. But yes, when they are adopted, they get to keep that. Also, we've had some dogs transferred to different rescue communities, and the photos go there too. We've had 2 recent dogs that were transferred to a different rescue, Austin Pets Alive, and their drawings are also on their kennels there, which I think is just really special too.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I think that is just so cool. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I saw that reel where you show the row of kennels and they all had the drawings and you were kind of zooming in on them. And it was so cute. I think it's fun to see how differently kids interpret things and how different all of the drawings were, but yet how much of the dog's personality you could see in the pictures that the kids had drawn. I just think it's so cute. And it really is one of those things. If I go into a kennel, it's not a fun place to go in. Let's just be honest. Going into a rescue is not fun. It is not fun to walk down that row of dogs, see them sad or barking, lunging, curled up in the corner, shaking. It's not fun to see that, guys. It's not. If you've never been into a rescue, I highly encourage that you go and at least experience what walking through a rescue is like, because it is not necessarily the most wonderful rainbows and sunshine experience you will ever have in your life. Now, getting the dog out in the play yard and getting one to interact with you and having a good experience out there, that's a 50-50 too. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But having that little bit of extra, that little bit of happiness, and look at this adorable dog that has this cute drawing and crayon or paint or colored pencil or whatever it happens to be, just brightens up the whole thing and it makes it seem a little bit more approachable. Because I think a lot of families or just people in general going into rescues don't know what they're walking into.
Yeah. I always say don't judge a dog by their kennel presence. One of the biggest pieces of advice that was given to me is it's all about perspective. So if you're looking at the dog's perspective and they've been in the kennel all day and they see someone and they start jumping on the kennel, the perspective of, I am so excited to see you. I am so happy you're here. I am so excited. I'm going to jump. Of course they are. But if you think of that perspective versus a dog just sitting there, then I think it really changes things. When you talk about the emotions of the shelter, it's really real. I cry all the time. And sometimes they're happy tears, sometimes they're sad tears. But in the area of perspective, I always think, man, this dog got out today because of me. And that's the perspective I need, right? Like, what an extra walk. And it's that perspective for me, which has made the shelter a very joyful experience versus a sad experience. And it can be. We have a lot of dogs. It feels like a spinning wheel, like maybe I'm not making a difference sometimes, but it's that perspective of the dog I took out yesterday. Got some extra playtime, and that's just me and you, buddy. I also tell people, I think it's really important to figure out what you're passionate about and what fills your bucket. And that fills my bucket. Taking a dog out, meeting a new dog, loving on a dog, that really fills my bucket and has brought out a different layer of passion for me. But it's something only I have, right? Because being a working parent, sometimes you lose that perspective of what am I passionate about? What am I doing? And this is my passion. I like that I can share my passion with other people. And so it can be a really sad place, and it can be a place where you show up with like-minded people who love animals and want to do something different. And that's the perspective that I like to go in with. And that's why I show up every week.
I think that's fantastic. It is a hard thing to do week after week after week after week, because you do feel like your wheels are spinning and you do feel like, is this really helping? And that's where I decided to shift out of working directly with animals in shelters and pet sitting and all that kind of stuff into focusing on training and doing the podcast, because there is so much need for education out there. And there is so much need for the Instagram versus reality barrier to come down. And I think that unfortunately, with today's culture, a lot of people get on Instagram and they see this dog and they think this dog is perfect and this dog is beautiful and this dog fits my vibe and all of these things. It'll look great on my couch. And all of a sudden now it's true. It's true. You're laughing, but I know you know it's true because people that have turned dogs into an aesthetic. And then now all of a sudden they have this beautiful border collie because they liked the way that it looked and they felt like it was fit into their idea of what, I'm going to use air quotes here, their idea of what their home life should look like, because we're not just talking about aesthetic, we're talking about checking boxes on a list too, right? People, this with the house, the fence, the dog, the cars, the kids, everybody's got to hair a certain way, clothes a certain way, all the things, right? We're checking all of these boxes. So we get a dog that looks a certain way because it gives us the family look, or it gives us the single girl look, or it gives us the macho dude look, or whatever it is that we're trying to go for. And now we have this dog that we don't know what to do with because it's got all these crazy behaviors and we don't know how to manage them. And the next thing you know, now you are dealing with that dog and having to try to find a home for that dog and trying to make the world a better place and make a difference for that dog because somebody did not educate themselves. They followed Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and saw this dog that they thought was perfect for their lifestyle, but didn't actually do any research when it came to the dog. And it's a problem.
I'm laughing because I just wonder what people think about our family. We are very far from perfect, but we accept chaos and we appreciate it. You know what's interesting though, what you said about education is I've had dogs my entire life and I thought I knew so much about dogs. And then I started volunteering at an animal shelter and I was like, wow, I don't. Just the amount of information I have learned being a volunteer is just wild. And although the second we adopted Rick, we got a trainer as well and proper training. And it's really neat because some of the training that I was able to use on Rick, pattern games, things like that, all incorporate at the shelter. And I am not a trainer, but I will use the same tricks and games and stuff so I can start doing that with dogs at the shelter before they leave the shelter. Education is huge. And I think that's a part that skipped over a lot because I did think I knew a lot about dogs. And I can't tell you how much I've learned about dogs since I started volunteering. And Rick obviously has a lot to teach us.
He does have a lot to teach us. And while we're on the education piece, I'm going to plug this really quick. Kim Brophy, I believe it was episode 48 or 49. She is a specialist in the world of animal science behavior ethology, and she wrote a book called Meet Your Dog. For the longest time, it's been free on Audible. I don't know if it's still free on Audible, but if you guys have not read Meet Your Dog by Kim Brophy, it is absolutely a 100%. I recommend every single one of my training clients read this book because the first few chapters talk about dog behavior and how we expect our dogs as dogs to fit into human society. And dogs were not built for human society. And it talks a lot about expectations versus actual behavior and how finding the right blend of those things is super, super important. But then the last several chapters of the book breaks down each type of dogs: gun dogs, herding dogs, guardian dogs. And you really get an in-depth view of what each breed really looks like. And it's cool because as I'm listening to this book and she gets to the combination of breeds that Fitz is, because he's got about 7 or 8 different breeds in him. And she's listing off the things that you might see in behavior for this breed of dogs. And I'm going, yep. Yeah, that too. Well, so I was a vet tech for 10 years. I've been working with animals, whether it was pet sitting, dog training, or as a vet tech for 30 years. And I am still learning every single day. And I think that in the dog world, you have to be learning all of the time because if we're not learning, we're not evolving. And we can't be better for our dogs if we're not willing to put ourselves out there and find that education piece and then try to advocate that education piece for everyone else.
Well, and when you talk about part of the education piece is relating it to humans, I tell people, have you liked every single human you've ever met? In truth, you vibe with some people, you don't vibe with some people. Have you liked every single person you've ever met? Probably not. So why do we expect the same for dogs? That was one of the things when I started at the shelter. It's okay. Not every dog has to like every dog. And that was something that I learned where that's okay. That's okay to have your own opinions. That is okay to listen to what they're trying to tell you. It's all about having tools in your toolbox also. And what tools do you have to help make your dog the best dog your dog can be? And it was really important for me to try to learn all the tools I can for Rick, but the dogs who I'm just meeting every single week. So I just think education is huge. And I love everything you pointed. I also just added that book to my cart. So thank you.
I am such a big person to push that book because it was a lot of light bulb moments for me. And I actually took her course, her legs course, which is learning, environment, genetics, and self. And it talks about each individual layer of those in the dogs. And basically it just hit on a lot of what you said, which is dogs learn behavior, but it depends on their environments. It depends on their genetics, and it also depends on them as an individual. I think that if more people could see dogs as an individual, it would change things. Your point to not every dog has to like every other dog. Not every dog likes walks. Not every dog likes to play fetch. Also, one thing that bothers me a lot is the I want my dog to look at me thing. Yes, I want my dog to look in my direction to tell me, yes, I'm paying attention to you. But it is weird. I'm sorry, I'm going to swear. It's weird as fuck when somebody is staring you down from across the room. That is creepy to me. I'm sorry. I don't like it. So why would you want to do that to your dog or force your dog to do that to you? I just think it's so weird and I don't like it. I don't like it. Again, another human expectation that we're putting on our dogs, but not thinking it all the way through, which is wild to me. I don't know. It's wild. So let's talk about our little buddy now, Mr. Rick, because I know that he is just an absolute sweetheart. He's a total Velcro dog. He is your personal assistant. He does all kinds of things with you. My favorite was the Dodo. Was that what it was recently?
We rate dogs.
Oh, yes. We rate dogs. Yes, that was my absolute favorite was the We Rate Dogs because him just like pushing himself across the room in the chair. That was the most passive aggressive thing I have ever seen a dog do. And it made me laugh. He is just such a unique, special guy. Fitz is a very unique dog too. He's just too dang smart. And that's where the herding breed in him comes in because I have tried to figure out how to turn off the noise that your camera makes when you start hitting record, that little beep that your phone makes. Because as soon as he hears it, behavior changes. He's done. Can't catch it on camera. I would have to leave my phone recording like 12 hours a day in order to catch some of the crazy stuff that he does to be able to put it on Instagram and be like, look at what a weirdo my dog is. Rick is just like, here I am. Let me show you how I am.
You know what's funny is he does stuff like this all the time. And he sits with me every day next to me at work. When I'm on work calls, he's right next to me. And I didn't know how strange it was, I guess, because it's just normal for us. So he started scooting towards me too. So in that video, he's scooting away from me. I actually got one today where he's scooting towards me, which is hilarious. So hopefully people won't be mad at me anymore since he's learned that trick. He is a character and I didn't realize how funny he was. It just happened to catch the moment. But I was like, oh, he does this stuff all the time.
I think it's great. When did you first notice? Because let's talk a little bit about the decompression stages. You bring him home, and I've heard so many terrible, horrible stories about how people get a dog and they keep it for less than 24 hours and they're automatically surrendering it because the dog did this or it peed on the floor or it tore this up or it wouldn't get in the car or whatever other horrible thing. You're basically taking an animal that was institutionalized, it has no social skills or came from a really bad situation previously and it's nervous. So we have that 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months situation where it's so many days to get to here, so many weeks to get to here, and then so many months to get to here. And bringing a dog into your home, you have to kind of let their personality unfurl, so to speak. And so I would love to hear about what it was like with Rick and how he unfurled into this lovable little house hippo.
Sure. It was a disaster when we brought him home. It was. And that's the thing. That is why I think 333 is so important and giving a dog the chance to decompress is so important because he ate through his crate and he was a crate dog at the shelter. So he was telling me something and then he ate my husband's computer all within 24 hours. So we also needed to manage our expectations of, okay, this is a lot for this guy here at our house too. So let's make sure instead of a crate, we're going to make sure that Rick has a very special, safe area where he knows that he is safe and special and can be by himself and get some rest and come out when he's ready. I also will say that baby gates will save your life when you bring a new dog home. And we had 2 existing dogs. So we all of a sudden had 3 dogs and 3 small children, having to not only learn the dog's interaction, but then also I needed to go through all of that with my children as well to make sure that they know how to respectfully be around a dog and they know how to respectfully touch a dog, talk to a dog, how to go up to a dog, all of the things which we highlight every single day. Just yesterday, I was walking Rick with one of my kids and they said, why does he turn around and look at you? And I said, let's talk about it. Every 3 to 4 steps, I always say Rick's name on a walk just to make sure he's engaged with me because I don't know if there's going to be an off-leash dog. I don't know what's going to happen while I'm walking. But you know what? I can control my walk with Rick and I can control making sure that him and I are having a good connection. Every 3 to 4 steps, I'll say, hey, he'll look at me, I'll give him a little treat and we'll keep going. And I got to explain that to my kids. This is the connection that we have and you can see it, can't you? Isn't that cool? And it's neat because they can see the connection you have with your dogs.
I think that's really awesome. I think that that's raising a child who's going to go on later in their life and already know that they have to build that connection with their dog. That wasn't something when I was a kid, that wasn't how it was. We had a golden retriever and we were like the Sandlot kids, right?
Oh,
like
I love those
we played in the park across the street. My sister and I were the only girls really in the neighborhood. There was one girl that was a little bit older, but she didn't play with us. All the other kids were boys. We played baseball and football and kickball and we did all the things. And then we all had dogs and our dogs would just kind of like hang out with us, but they weren't like leash trained and they didn't know how to check in on walks. It was totally different. Dogs were totally different when I was a kid. Family dogs were there, but dogs were kind of just allowed to exist as dogs. They weren't so cornered and quartered and trained and everybody wasn't so nitpicky about what their dogs were doing. If their dog was chewing a stick in the yard, that was fine. People weren't freaking out about it. So I think that it's really great that that's something that you can share with your kids. We do the same thing. Fitz is not a dog that likes walks, which is why I said that earlier. He does not like walks, but we occasionally go because he needs to retain the leash skills. He needs to know how to use those leash skills for things like when we go to the vet or if there's an emergency or if we do decide to travel or something like that. He needs to be able to have those skills. Our check-in word is hey. And every so often I say, hey, and he'll turn around and he'll come back and get a treat. And it's really important to keep your dog engaged because you don't know. We had an incident last summer where we were walking around the neighborhood and I don't know if a new family moved into a house or if they just got new dogs or what the situation was, but this is a non-fenced in backyard. Neither of these dogs had collars on, so I know that there was not an invisible fence. And we got charged by a Rottweiler and a Golden Doodle. Fortunately, because of my practice and my work and my leash handling skills, I was able to maneuver him, put myself in between him and run backwards. He didn't even see the other dogs coming and we got away. But that was quick thinking. If you don't practice those things, you don't know how to use those things. And again, that's another place where the education piece comes in.
Yes, you're right. With the decompression, he was difficult the first few days. He was really challenging. He was difficult. It was one of those, my life is already really chaotic. What the heck have I done? But then, right after that first period, we got into training. We did all the things. And my senior dog doesn't get along with Rick all the time. So that was a new dynamic that we had to learn about. And then we went to separate training for my other existing dog. And it's all these different scenarios that you learn. And that's, again, where I thought I knew about dogs. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn.
Fitz was that dog for me. I've had other difficult scenarios in the past, but for as far as like having a dog that was reactive towards people and other dogs, totally selective about everyone in the scenario all of the time, that was Fitz for me. He was a light bulb dog all of the time for me. Actually, it's something that I don't talk about a lot, and I should probably actually talk about this on Instagram. Fitz does not like cats. We live in an area that has a big backyard. We have raccoons, we have possums, we have feral cats, we have all the things in our backyard, squirrels, and Fitz chases them.
Mm-hmm.
My roommate has 2 cats. Baby gates will save your life, okay? We have a stack of baby gates. We have 2 screen baby gates stacked on each other, and then there's a baby gate at the bottom that's in front of the screen gate, because Toby realized that he could get under the screen gate and get into the cat box and eat the poop.
Yeah.
So we had to put up another barrier so that Toby couldn't do that. Now, my roommate wants to get a kitten, and I'm like, well, then we're going to have to do something totally different than this mishmash thing that we have going on here, because kittens are liquid. And the last thing I want is for a kitten to come upstairs and for there to be a dead kitten, because my dog does not like cats.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've been going back and forth on. And I think the best solution is to install a door, because I don't even know that the highest baby gate would help us, because kittens are kittens. But it's one of those things where you bring a dog into a house, you have to figure out what those concessions are. Toby didn't like Fitz at first either. And Fitz was a puppy when I brought him in. Toby was like, no, thank you. So I totally get it. He wasn't quite a senior dog at that point, but he was close.
Yeah.
And it's a lifestyle change. So I think that it's great that you were ready to tackle it, even though it was a lot. I commend you. 3 dogs, 3 kids. That's a handful. That's a lot. When I was married, I had 2 kids and 3 dogs and 2 cats. And then we had an arrangement of small animals on top of that. And it's a lot. It's a lot of work to take care of all of that. So for you to do all of that and volunteer on top of it is fantastic. So you started training with Rick.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like? How did he do with the training? Was he good right away?
Yeah. He did fantastic. Yeah. When we started, after the initial decompression phase, his personality started to highlight. And he is a lazy boy. He is a couch potato. He likes to sunbathe, but he's not stubborn at all. He just loves his people, and he's quite lazy. He wants his daily walk. It's funny because the neighborhood dogs are out walking at 8 a.m. They're going. And I'm like, oh, Rick doesn't wake up till 11.
He knows what's up.
He's a lunch break. Yes. But that's when his personality really started shining. It was our trainers who also helped notice that something was wrong with Rick's leg. And they noticed our very first appointment that he had a torn CCL. But it was our trainers who caught that, which is also why, trainers are so valuable and were so amazing for us. I didn't know he had a torn CCL, but he did. We were able to get surgery, but that halted some of our training, and we had to modify some of the training also based on his leg. And even though it's healed, we still modify some of the training. We just had an alumni meetup a few weeks ago, which was really fun. We did some scent work at different stations and got to rotate, so the dogs were able to have different scent stations and some agility things. And it was really cool. It was really great. He did great with training. I think part of the training for him was also training me. And I think that's also really important because he will catch on to it really well. But I think a lot of it is also training your human and making sure that they understand and buy in of why you're doing certain things and the science behind it. But it was great. He goes with me to school pickup every day. After the initial decompression phase, his personality really started to shine. And then some of his little, not bad behaviors, but some of his little naughty behaviors, like demand barking, which we're working on right now. Because boy, I tell you, if you feed this boy at 5:01 instead of 5 o'clock, he will tell you he is unhappy with the service that is provided in this house.
It's so funny when dogs have those little quirks. It's just personality, right? It's
100%.
the same as me. Somebody might think that something I do is weird, but somebody else might think that it's funny, and then somebody else thinks it's normal, right? So again, like you said earlier, it's all about perspective and how you look at those things. And I think that taking your dog at face value and just kind of letting your dog be whoever they are is one of the best things that we can do for our dogs, because that's when we learn the most about them, is just by letting them do those weird little things. And okay, so maybe we don't like the demand barking. I'm not a huge fan of the demand barking either.
Nor am I.
My big thing with Fitz right now is I had to rearrange the living room area that I record the podcast in, because where I had the desk positioned originally, you can see it, the listeners can't see it behind me. I was speaking into that large echoey void right back there. And so the audio quality was not super great. And so I was like, okay, well, now I have to switch the whole room around, which put the couch right in front of the window. Not ideal when you have a dog that doesn't like anything that moves, because he's a herding breed that's alert barking at everything. So I put a window film on my windows so that we can keep him from barking out of the window, because the mailman's coming, oh, the Amazon's coming, oh, somebody's walking by with their dog, or just somebody's randomly going for a run. He would bark at all of that stuff. So I put up the window film, but I only put it up on the bottom window thinking, if he can't see it, he's not going to bark at it. No, he's too smart. Now he just puts his little paws up on the windowsill and peeks out over the top half of the window. So now I'm going to have to put window film over the top half of the windows so that he can't do that.
Does have a bark too, doesn't he?
He sounds scary. He sounds scary.
Rick does. He only demand barks at 5:01. Otherwise, the guy doesn't bark. My senior dog does bark, but Rick is more just like I must be near you, sit next to you, and then just looks out the window while I'm working. He's got his own little job at his own little desk.
I wish Fitz would just look out the window while I was working.
Fair. I know.
He's like, oh, that thing is happening and I don't like it. And I'm like, dude, that thing is happening. It's fine. No, he gets angry about it.
You know what's funny is one of the things in training we are still working on actually is helping Rick gain some of his own confidence, because he does have to sit next to me working in a chair. He does have to be so close to me. And although he doesn't bark, he needs that. So we are working on that confidence of, can Rick be in a room without mom? And I know people joke, oh, your dog follows you to the bathroom. And like, yes, but like Rick also comes into the shower. So we are really working on the confidence of him going and relaxing in another room by himself and not seeing me for a few minutes. We're trying different techniques just to build his own confidence, because he looks so confident as this boss dog wearing his sunnies and his outfits, but
and his gold chain.
And his
Don't
gold
forget his gold chain.
But that's one of the things we're learning actually in training, is just to give him his own confidence. And I'm trying to help him build his confidence of things he can do without me. And I'm like, you can do it, buddy.
I don't want to step on your toe here, or your trainer's toes here at all, because I hate to do that. But have you guys done any doggy parkour activities with him at all?
No.
You guys should try that. Well, we can have a conversation about that later, but doggy parkour is a super fun way that you can build confidence and a little bit of independence. And really, you don't need anything special. You can do it on your furniture and all kinds of things like that. So for example, if I wanted to set up a little obstacle course in my house, I would pull out the chairs from the dining room table, and then I would take the bench and I would put it in the hallway. And then we have an agility hoop that he can jump through. Yeah. So I would put him in the starting position, and then I would run him down the hallway, and then he would have to run back around, get on top of the bench, run down the bench. And then he would go over and under all of the chairs around the table. And then he would jump through his hoop, and then he would end in a little finish, and he would have to lay down when he was done. Okay. And he would just get treats all the way around to kind of lure him through the course. But that up and down motion and the over under motion, and that's really confident building. And you can also do that on your walks. So if you're walking down the sidewalk and your neighbor has a giant rock in their yard or something, and they're not going to freak out if your dog jumps on top of the rock, you can have him jump up on the rock. And then you can continue walking down the sidewalk. And then when you come back, you can walk around times and then jump on it. So you can just make your own little obstacle course challenges for him to do, which builds his confidence in exploring new things. And that helps with confidence boost as well.
That's a good idea. I haven't thought about that. Thank you.
Yeah. I hope if you guys do it, take some video, send me what's going on. I'd love to see it. Post it on Instagram. I would love to see Rick getting a little funky on the obstacle course. I think he would be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, part of me has an idea of me setting up an obstacle course in our house and showing him, and then him just looking at me and being like, lady, you do it. It's like, very Rick thing to do. I'm just going to sit here actually and just watch you do it, lady.
If there's treats though, I mean, make sure you have really good treats because then they participate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's my little dog Toby is like, I'm good. I'm 13 or 14 years old. I'm good. But the second I pull out the treats, he will get on the pivot pad and he will walk around in the circle and he will jump off.
Yeah.
And he's learned that we have the training mat out on the porch. And when I work on certain things with Fitz, we use the elevated placemat on the porch. And Toby, the little creeper, will sit in the window and just put his face up against the glass and he'll just stare at us. Like, I see that there is treats happening out there. And so then I'll let Fitz out into the yard and then I'll let Toby come out onto the porch and Toby will go and sit on the mat and then he'll just sit there and look at me like, okay, where are the treats? I'm here. I'm doing the thing. He does not realize there's so much more happening than just sitting on the mat. It's so funny.
I'm ready. Give me all the treats, please.
I'm ready. Let's go. Besides the chair thing, because that's probably my favorite thing. That's an image I will have in my head forever is Ritz scooting across the floor. But knowing that he gets in the shower with you is also pretty funny. Although obviously you don't appreciate it. It's pretty funny. But tell us some of the other funny things that Rick does.
He's a creature of habit. So you can find him, if he's not sitting next to me, he is sitting in the exact same spot on the couch every single day. But he tucks his head in between the pillows. So when you look at him, it's like the meme of it's too much. He can't face the day ever. He's just constantly making me laugh because of the things that he tries to do. But he's a creature of habit. He is either right there or he's right here next to me, but he does have a hard time facing the day. He always has the judgmental face of some kind. He also sleeps with his eyes open and snores. And so I'm like, are you awake? Are you asleep? Are you awake? Are you asleep? And so we have to try to figure that out. And I'm like, well, the tongue is out. I think he's asleep. But yeah, he sleeps with his eyes open, which is kind of strange. Gosh, what else does he do? I mean, he's just such a character.
He is. He's just goofy. That's what I love about him. Rick and Thor from Mythological Dogs. I don't know if you follow that. They've been on the podcast twice now. I absolutely love them.
They're one of my very favorite people to follow on Instagram. I love what they do. I'm also in a biracial marriage, and so I think it's really cool, and they're awesome. I am a big fan of theirs.
Yeah, they're incredible, and they're doing big things for the rescue community too. It's so special to see that they have some big things coming up. You know, they're fostering dogs now at home, have 5 dogs of their own, and now they're bringing in all these foster dogs too, which is just really cool to see. I think it's really neat how each account that I follow is doing something that's so incredible. It's so cool to see what an amazing, diverse community we have and how much of a difference that one account can make just by fostering a dog, by walking dogs on their lunch break, by saving a black dog. And you mentioned that earlier about the black dog syndrome. It's the same with cats. And honestly, I don't get it. I don't understand it. My dogs have been all different colors. I haven't had a single dog that looked the same, but some people are very specific about that. I don't know if that's a aesthetic thing or if it's a preference thing or what.
There's a lot of superstition actually with black dogs and black cats. It doesn't really make sense. But I think it's just been a passed down thing. If you look at the dogs that are portrayed, even in Harry Potter, it was a black dog. It's how it's portrayed sometimes of it being a black dog. And it's funny because I will probably only adopt black dogs now. I'm trying to highlight only black dogs this month for Black Dog Syndrome Awareness Month. There are so many black dogs who are absolutely wonderful, incredible, amazing dogs waiting for their forever home. Some say they don't photograph as well. There are a lot of reasons, but again, it was something I just didn't know until I started volunteering. And that's one of the things that I learned about. I had no idea that black dogs were adopted less than other dogs. But
yeah, I've known about it for a long time, like back into the vet tech years.
Yeah.
And the surrender rate is higher and all that stuff. It just never made any sense to me. I had an all black German Shepherd and she was a beautiful dog. I'm one of those people though that I am not a doggist person, which is racism for dogs. That's what we always called it when I was in the veterinary world. We called it dogism.
That's terrible.
It's one of those things where people are selective about the breed, the color, the size, all of the things. And I can't tell you how many times I would be taking something to the front desk or answering the phone for somebody, and we would have a client come in and they would see a pit bull or a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd in the waiting room, and they'd throw open the door and they would say, "Can that dog go into a room so I can bring my dog in?" And I would just be like, "This dog is not doing anything. What is your deal?" And of course, they would have like this teeny tiny little small dog that was probably actually the problem, because it's usually how it goes. But there's so much misinformation, uneducation, and then fear mongering when it comes to those breeds of dogs, the colors of dogs, all the things like that. Because if we could just be nice to each other as people, maybe we could be nice to dogs too.
There's a book called Pitbull, actually, and it's a phenomenal book, but it goes into a lot of the history of why and how the misinformation has spread and where it started from, and the scientific evidence about dogs. It's a really good book for any dog person. I recommend it a lot. I do always keep learning, because when I walked in the shelter, I didn't know anything about bully breeds. And here I am 2 years later. When we're talking about Instagram, it's funny because I like to say that we found the happy spot on the internet. And there are definitely some unkind people, but there are some really kind people spreading true information and spreading positivity and trying to make a difference. It's been really, really cool to connect. I actually met the account Polo the Pity.
Yeah, she was on the podcast too, Molly.
And she sent me a message and was like, "Would you like to meet in person?" And I was like, "I would love to meet in person." And I showed her the shelter. It was amazing. It's really cool the type of connections you can also make with other people, other brands. It's just been honestly a joy connecting with other people and different rescues and trying to support your friends who are now fostering, or trying to support people in different cities. That has been such a joy, a positive part of the internet, versus I try to stay away from everything else.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I am very invested in the Dogstagram world and not any other exploration at all. I might check out some horses or some funny cat videos, but really just keep me in the animal realm, because I don't care about the rest of it. That's my happy place. I have had the same experience, with the podcast as well. Just the number of people getting involved with, meeting people like you, and just having these fun conversations and sharing information. And now you have given me a book that I can read, because I had never heard of that book. And that's where it's important, because as long as we're having these conversations and we're learning from each other, then we are doing the work. And that's why I started this podcast, is because I think that it's easy to learn from listening to the podcast. Easy to listen to this episode and learn about Black Dog Syndrome. It's easy to learn about Meet Your Dog and Pitbull. And it's easy to learn these are some starting places, and these are two people that we can reach out to and know that we're not going to get judged if we have questions.
Right.
That's really important, because I think there are plenty of accounts out there that there is a lot of negativity on, and you can't reach out to those people because you don't trust them. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. This is a safe place.
Yeah.
You can trust me. You can trust my guests. You can trust that if you have questions, that somebody will be there to answer them. It's all about the good stuff, right? I remember when I stumbled upon your account, it was, I think, right after you had got Rick. And it was you trying to figure out where he fit in your life and stuff. And then slowly just kind of unfolds into this silly little dog. And it was just really cool. And also, when he started wearing the gold chain, that was kind of just it for me, because I was like, this dog, he looks like he's just the coolest dude on the planet, and he is fine with it. And I love it. I love that you were able to give that to him. And I love that you were able to see that in so many other dogs and just kind of help them find a new home. What you're doing is so cool. And I hope that you will let it continue to fill your cup and not let it pull you down and drain you, because I know that there are things that happen in the rescue world that are not ideal, and it's hard to watch.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's hard. The whole reason I started the account, I didn't think I was going to ever have an Instagram. I don't know what I'm doing. I still joke that I have no idea what I'm doing, because I don't. But I wanted to show people a different side of a misunderstood breed that I probably didn't know much about either. And I hope to show the positive series. Gary is climbing back on his chair. People are like, does he climb in the chair himself? Yes, he climbs in the chair himself. This is all him. Like, It's
If you had to pick him up every single time, that would be a disaster.
There he is. This world, we're just all living in it. I know there's a lot of dog accounts, but I wanted to do something a little different and just show and share some of the things I learned. But I think it's really cool being able to see the dogs I get to hang out with every week too.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about Howdy a little bit because that story really, really hit me. Of course, it happened right before I jumped on here to record with you. That's why it's fresh in my mind. But this is a perfect example of a dog that was mistreated, a dog that was obviously categorized in a certain way. It's a black dog, it's a bully breed, and now someone else has made it your responsibility, the shelter's responsibility. It's so difficult. I'm going to tell from my experience what I saw on your account, and then I'm going to let you tell the rest of the story. When I got on Instagram this afternoon, before I got on here with Kate, of course, she popped up in my feed, and Howdy has a tag on him that says something to the effect of, I have annoyed everyone and everything in my life, and now this is basically where we've ended up. An engraved tag, you guys, a large oval-shaped engraved tag that has this terrible message on it, and this dog was chained to a pole or a tree and left. Not surrendered, just left. I am just completely blown away. One, by the fact that somebody would just abandon a dog like that, even though I know that it happens a lot. But two, the fact that somebody would spend the time and the money to make that tag and then just abandon the dog like that. It's just mind-blowing to me. Hopefully by the time this episode releases, Howdy will have found a home. And I promise that I will update you guys if you ask about Howdy. We can ask Kate to see what Howdy's status is. But hopefully Howdy will have a home by then. Would you tell everybody about Howdy and just advocate a little bit for Howdy, and then we can talk about why we don't want this kind of thing to continue to happen.
Yeah, of course. Each week I pick a dog at the shelter who I've walked and tell their story. And I think that's what's really important. I really think that every dog has a story. Even if it's at the beginning of their story or the middle of their story, that's not how the story has to end. We can try to help change that. So Howdy was left tied to a sign at the shelter. He was not surrendered. The engraved tag on him said, I have become a burden upon my owner and an annoyance to everyone else. And that's how he was found. What really bothered me about that particular situation with Howdy was when an owner surrenders a dog, we can learn so much more about them. And I know there's a lot of stigma about owner surrender. I completely get it. But when you surrender a dog, you can help to tell that dog's story. So Howdy has no story because of how he was left. We have to try to create that and figure out things that his previous owner might have been able to tell us. What was his favorite food? What does he like? There has got to be something positive about Howdy. I'll tell you that Howdy's a young dog who's desperate for training. He's Rick 2 years ago. He's a black dog who is young and playful, but he was so eager to learn. I spent like an hour with him. We played some pattern games. He was catching on right away. He's a strong puller, but I had my treats in hand. I called his name. We stopped. I gave him a treat. We started working on those things right away. He was so eager to learn, but Howdy was not given the tools. So Howdy failed. And that is also really hard because you need to find really good adopters. He's not an annoyance. Probably every human, every kid at some time have been told they're annoying. And that's what really bothered me, is because I'm like, no, buddy, you're not annoying. You're not. But you haven't been set up to succeed. So let's go ahead and try to help you. That one really bothered me.
It bothered me too. What's really sad about this is it's probably somebody who didn't ask for help. They didn't hire a trainer. They didn't know what they were doing. They got a puppy. They had no idea that puppies had to be potty trained and kennel trained and leash trained and all of the things. And so the reason that Howdy became an annoyance, let's put that in air quotes, was because Howdy's owner didn't know what they were doing. And instead of taking responsibility and asking questions, doing research, hiring a trainer, learning, finding that education piece, trying to make the situation better for Howdy and themselves, they just said, screw this, it can be somebody else's problem. And that is why there is such a freaking huge disaster of a problem in the shelter world. And it's so sad.
There are resources out there. And if the shelter was contacted, there are training resources that we have for people that are available. And I get it. I know it's hard. Everything's expensive. I'm very empathetic to other people's situations too, but it's hard because now we have another dog at the shelter to find another home for. So that's kind of how it's never ending. But you know what? He's safe. Rick was dumped from a car and luckily was brought to the shelter. Howdy's safe. Rick is safe. Luckily, I'm going to try everything in my power to help another Black dog get out of the shelter.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this today, and I appreciate everything that you do for the rescue world. And as soon as I end this recording with you, I am going to go back on Instagram and I am going to share Howdy's story. And,
thank you.
Yes, because it really hit me that deeply. I try not to share too many of the rescue things because literally everyone would be upset because my stories would be just every hour. There would be like 3 stories because of all the accounts that I follow and help and work with. And everyone would be like, Emily, you need to post something other than this. This is tragic and heartbreaking. Well, it is tragic and heartbreaking and it's so sad, but this is definitely one of those situations where this hit my heart way too hard. Honestly, I'm just appalled.
I try to keep it upbeat. I promise. I do really.
I know you do.
But I appreciate that because when people do share, it just takes one person. If I can tell you one quick story, because I know we're wrapping up, but it's funny because it does take one person, right? So this year I found 2 dogs at my kids' baseball games. And the second one was a beautiful German Shepherd and she couldn't get up. I had called 311 and we got the animal protection officer to come out and get the dog. And I did a reel about her. Her name was Coraline, and a beautiful family in Florida saw her and came and got her. And they're incredible because they gave her so much time to decompress. But this is also the connections and the people that I've been able to meet. I'm going to meet the family in person this weekend because they're coming back to Austin, which is really
so
cool.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. When people do share stories, I'm very grateful because it just takes one person to see it and you never know who's going to see it. So thank you, because that's my goal is we're going to get Howdy out of the shelter. And I'm very hopeful for Hazelnut from last week.
I will make sure that in stories we have an update when this episode publishes, because this episode's not going to publish for a few months post-recording. So hopefully Howdy will be in a happy home by then, and we'll have an update that we can share in stories about this. Again, thank you, Kate, so much for being here. Thank you so much for saving Rick and bringing him into our lives and sharing all of the joyful, hilarious things that he does with us. I just have one more question for you. What would you like to leave the listeners with?
Goodness. I would be so grateful if people would visit their shelters this year. And they don't have to adopt a dog. I just ask that you visit your shelter, and I ask that you get involved in your community. It doesn't even have to be with dogs. I just think that it's really important to figure out what you can do within your community, whatever fills your bucket. So that's it. Find what fills your bucket.
I think that's a great message, and that it's a really good suggestion. Get involved. It doesn't have to be dogs. No. It can be the Parks and Rec. It can be the library. It can be whatever you want, guys. But get involved. Do something.
Fill your bucket. Do something for you.
Yeah, exactly. Do something for you. Do something that makes you happy and gives that positive impact to the rest of the world. Take that as you will, guys, and share your stories about how you're making an impact. And we will see you guys next week on Straight Up Dog Talk.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited and produced under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe and be sure you don't miss an episode. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.